The first winter in Don't Starve Together has probably claimed more lives than just about anything else in the game, and it's a pretty significant hurdle. If you can make it through the winter, then chances are you can make it through spring and summer too, and then you're well on your way to immortality. So today I thought I'd give you guys a bit of a leg up. I'm going to take you through everything that you need to do to prepare yourself for winter, show you all the items you'll need and where to get them, and give you some handy tips that I wish I had been given way back when I started. So if you want to have an easy winter, you're going to have to overcome 5 obstacles. Obviously the cold temperature is the main one, and with that comes the lack of food. Then there's also Deerclops, Hound Waves, and Insanity. Separately, these don't sound very challenging, but it's when you have a combination of 2 or more of these that you start to see many runs end. But we'll start with the big one, the cold. Having a thermal stone in winter is an absolute necessity, and for that reason it helps to have an alchemy engine and all the ingredients ready to go before the temperature starts to fall. A red or yellow thermal stone will keep you completely warm in winter as long as you carry it, and a red thermal stone will even provide you enough light to keep Charlie away from you at night. Obviously it's a bit of a pain to have to build campfires every few minutes to keep the stone heated, but if you carry a torch, setting fire to a tree is a very quick way to regain your heat and be on your way once again. Unlike the single player version of the game, thermal stones in Don't Starve Together have durability, which means that if you let the heat run out too often, they'll just disappear. You can however fully repair your thermal stone with a sewing kit or trusty tape if you play as Winona, and unless you run out of silk or hound's teeth, which is quite unlikely, you should be able to keep the same thermal stone for years and even use it again in the summer when it gets hot. Insulated clothing is also quite useful in winter and is something often overlooked by beginners and experienced players alike. It's not something you necessarily need. The thermal stone should be enough on its own, but it will help you keep warm even when your stone loses its heat, and the clothing often has added benefits like sanity regen or wetness protection added on top. The beefalo hat is by far the warmest piece of clothing you can make. Unfortunately, it does require you to kill at least 1 beefalo to get a horn, most likely a few. You can do this relatively easily by feeding one a couple of grass or twigs to make it follow you away from the herd and then attacking it. If that doesn't bother you, then by all means go for it. You'll also get beefalo wool in the process, but if you don't have enough for the hat, you can always shave some more beefalo at night. If you'd rather keep those furry cows alive or don't really feel entirely comfortable fighting them, then the winter hat might be the right fit for you. It requires half the wool and an equal amount of silk, but both hats last for 10 days. And while the winter hat might not provide as much insulation as the beefalo hat, it does provide a tiny boost of sanity, and in winter when dusk and night dominate the daytime, every little bit of sanity helps. And that brings me to one of the most important items you'll want to get in winter, the Tam O'Shanter. Not only does the Tam provide a decent amount of insulation itself, it also provides the most sanity out of any clothing item in the game and lasts a total of 25 days, meaning you can wear it for almost 2 winters back to back before needing to repair it. In order to get one, however, you're going to have to get acquainted with McTusk. Starting on the first day of winter, walrus camps will become active around the world. There are between 1 and 4 of these on any given map, so make sure that you've found them before you get into winter. You don't want to have to waste the time that you could be spending hunting for the Tam. The walrus party consists of McTusk, his son, and 2 blue hounds. The best strategy I've found to fight these guys risk-free is to firstly make sure that you're heated up, put on some armor, and then rush the McTusk. He'll always do an animation to signal his intention to start attacking you. If you're not already next to him after he does this, he'll start shooting you with blow darts that really hurt. So make sure to get nice and close. He doesn't have a melee attack and instead will attempt to run away to a safe distance where he can resume shooting. Keep chasing him, just completely disregard the hounds and the little shit walrus. You can deal with them after. Eventually McTusk will reach a point where he'll want to head back to the camp. If you still have the blue hounds on you at this point, now is the time to take them out. Often I find that they've left me alone by this point anyway, but more importantly, as the walrus walks slowly back to his camp, you can just get free hits on him until he dies. There's a 50% chance of getting a tusk, which you can use to make a walking cane, which alone is incredibly useful, and a 25% chance of getting the Tam. Obviously you'll want both, and chances are you'll need to fight McTusk a few times to get them. If you don't have multiple campsites on your world, then you'll need to wait 2.5 days for the walrus to respawn. I normally give it a full 3 days just to make sure, which means that in the entire winter you should have 6 chances of getting the Tam and Cane. It's incredibly unlikely that you won't get the Tusk in 6 attempts, and you'll most likely get a Tam as well, and these 2 items will set you up for the rest of the winter and beyond. Wearing the Tam is so powerful that you'll often need to resort to things like eating Glommergoop to go insane. I often have to remind myself to take it off because otherwise we run out of nightmare fuel. But when you really need to focus on things like finding food or fighting off hound waves, it's quite reassuring to have your sanity all sorted. And speaking of food, what exactly is there to eat in the winter? The cold weather immediately rules out things like berry bushes and farms as sources of food, but it does provide one of the best fillers that you'll find in the game in the form of ice. Pengulls will start to spawn in winter if you walk along the edge of the map, and with them you'll start to notice mini glaciers appearing around their breeding sites. You can also find a bunch of them in the rocky biomes around the map, and in no time you'll have a very large stash of ice. 3 ice and 1 meat will give you meatballs, and unless you're playing as a character with hunger penalties like Wily, 20 meatballs will comfortably see you through the entire winter. You'll probably still have some meat left over from fighting Beefalo or from your expeditions to the walrus too. Hounds will also come periodically to give you more meat, and if that's not enough, you have suspicious dirt piles that you can follow, and 3 koalefants will give you enough meat for the whole winter. The hardest part of fighting these guys is getting them to attack you in the first place. I find a ranged weapon comes in handy here, otherwise you can wait until they fall asleep or chase them into a corner. Dodge the first hit and then you should be able to get 6 hits before needing to dodge again. The cooked koalefant trunk will also provide you with 75 hunger and 40 health, so don't forget to grab that too. And it goes without saying that you'll need an ice box for storing all this food. This is definitely something you can set up before winter hits, and it's also worth noting that ice in an icebox will literally never spoil, so get as much as you can fit in there. It should keep you going for a long time. As for the icebox itself, it's really only the gears that will pose any kind of problem to gather. If you didn't manage to get any from Tumbleweed, and you didn't manage to get any from digging up graves, and you didn't get lucky enough to find some just lying on the floor next to chest pieces, you're probably going to have to fight them for one. The Knight is definitely the easiest target, and it's just a 2-hit and dodge strategy for that guy. You do need to be a bit more careful if there are multiple chest pieces around, and you might have to back out for a bit and come back again when they lose aggression, but 1 gear is all you need really. So we're looking pretty good now. We've got some food going, got a Tam and walking cane which will keep us in good stead for the rest of the game. I feel like we're forgetting something. Oh yeah, Deerclops. Deerclops normally comes on day 30, and you'll be notified well in advance by the growling and by your character getting all sweaty. Make sure to leave your base. That is the most important thing to remember. Deerclops always spawns near to the player, and if you have structures nearby, you won't have them for much longer. Once Deerclops is spawned in a safe place away from your base, you can literally leave it there if you want. It'll wander around, maybe fighting some spiders or pigs that are close by, and despawn by the end of winter if you don't return to fight by then. Attacking Deerclops can be a bit problematic, not because the fight is overly complicated, you just do 2 or 3 hits and dodge, but because the sanity drain is enormous. You can very quickly go from full sanity to 0 fighting this thing. And for that reason, I recommend bringing some sanity food in the form of cooked green caps or cooked cactus flesh. Alternatively, you can let something else fight Deerclops for you. Tentacles are my personal favourite, bonus points if you have a reed trap in your world. And you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You get tentacle spikes and tentacle spots as well as the eyeball without having to lift a finger. And trust me, the eyeball is definitely something you should make sure to get, as the Eyebrella is possibly the most essential item for the coming spring. Besides Deerclops, the only other real threats are the hound waves, and you should get 1 or 2 of these in the first winter. 2 hits and dodge is the stock standard strategy for hounds, but if you're not comfortable fighting, Beefalo will easily take care of them, and so will other creatures like spiders, tall birds, tentacles, chess pieces. You should probably make sure that you have decent weaponry though, and that's something that you can organize before winter as well. Hambats are great if you're going to be fighting a lot over the course of a few days, so for things like deerclops or walrus hunting, it's a good idea. They do spoil quite quickly though, so gather the materials, but don't make them until you're ready to use them. You can get everything you need for a hambat and an alchemy engine from hammering down pig houses and killing the pigs too. Offer them a seed and then just spank them. And if you want more of a longer lasting weapon, a dark sword will require a shadow manipulator to craft, meaning you'll need a purple gem, a bunch of nightmare fuel and living logs. As for the gem, it's often easier to focus on finding a red and blue gem and then just refining those together. You can get these quite often from digging up graves, and blue gems will drop from the blue hounds as well. Totally normal trees can be chopped down for living logs if there aren't any tree guards yet, or they can be fought by hitting 4 times and dodging. As for the nightmare fuel, you're gonna have to go insane for a bit, which means taking off your tam. I know. Otherwise you can gather petals and refine them, I guess, but by the time you pick up 28 of them, you're probably gonna be insane anyway. And there you have it, that's everything you should need to know to get you through the first winter and beyond. Just a few little miscellaneous tips before I finish up the video. It goes without saying that you should try to do as much preparation as you possibly can before winter hits, and this should include getting at least a miner hat and a lantern. These items are incredibly useful, and seeing as nighttime dominates in winter, they'll allow you to get a lot more done each day. Also, make sure to use your walking cane in fights when kiting. Switching between your weapon and the cane will give you a lot more space to dodge and save you getting beaten up a bit, especially when fighting bosses like deerclops. In time, I hope you guys start to see winter as less of a barren season with nothing but darkness and deerclops, and more for the opportunities that it presents, especially when you add in things like fighting claws, and when you factor in some of the foods that you can get from the lunar biome that grow all year round. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Let me know in the comments if you have any further questions. I'm more than happy to help anyone out, and I'm sure that there are other people watching this that will do the same. If you want to watch me playing Don't Starve Together live, make sure to follow me over on Twitch, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.